All right, so now we are here. Now we'll work on student side of things. So in pages, login is already there. Student can log in if their account is approved. If admin has approved their account, they can log in. And after login, we have the student. We have just my quizzes page right now, but we need to have the initial page, the we can say the dashboard or home page for student, where we will show a list of all the available active quizzes. Okay, then student can check any quiz and start any quiz. All right. So in student, we already have one home page, right? We'll change this home page later, or maybe in student only. Let's do this. We'll create a page here. Let's say what we call it, student home dot razor. All right. And the way we are having admin URL slash admin slash then the page name, same way we'll do this. So we already have this my quizzes, so let's copy this URL structure, go to the student home, copy, and here we'll say student. Then after this we can simply say slash student slash home, just this. Save it, save everything. Now let's go to any of the page. We'll see the approach we are taking. This section content, we need this section content. We'll come here on home, and here we'll say just home, section content. It can't. Why is it not working? We have blazing quiz.shared. This is fine. We should have the section in this underscore imports, right? Yeah, so section is not coming for this. Maybe the same issue. Either the build action is not correct. Save it. Let's unload and reload this project. Unload and reload. Go to student home and we can see this now. All right. Now on this page, what we'll do, we will display all the available active quizzes, and we'll have one filter, that category filter. If student want to filter the available quizzes on the basis of category, then that should also be possible for this student. All right. So for this, first thing we need a list of categories. So we'll say private category DTO underscore categories with default blank array. Then we need quiz list DTO underscore quizzes with same default empty array. Let's go to quiz list and we'll see ID, name, category ID, name, total question, time in minutes, is active. We are good with this. We need only these things only. We don't need is active flag here, because for this, for students, they should see only the active quizzes. But we'll reuse this type only. All right. Now in override on initialized async method, first thing we need to load categories and quizzes both. So what we'll do, we'll inject our app state first, app state. Then we'll inject for category. What API do we have for category? We have category API. So category API. And then for student quizzes, do we have any API? Not yet, right? We'll create a new API. But for now, let's have these two things only. Then we'll say app state dot show loader. Here we'll say fetching categories and quizzes. All right. Then we can have try catch. And finally, we'll say app state dot hide loader. In exception, for now, let it throw. We'll have some alert, some common global level alerts later. And in this try, we'll say var categories task. These two things do not depend on each other, so we can load these parallelly. Instead of directly awaiting on the categories task, what we'll do, we'll simply go ahead and without awaiting, we'll call category API dot get categories async. Then here we will load or fetch quizzes. After that, we'll say underscore categories equals await categories task. Okay, now before continuing, let's implement one API for the student quizzes. So first thing, we'll go to our API services. We'll create a new service. We'll say student quiz service. Here we are going to have quiz context as a constructor parameter. And we'll have it private read only field. And then here we'll say public async task of quiz list DTO, array of quiz list DTO. And here we can say get active quizzes async. And we can optionally have category ID, int category ID. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll simply have var query equals, we'll generate our query here first, context dot quizzes dot where, here we'll say q dot is active. This should be true. After that, we'll check if this category ID is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then only we'll filter by category. If we don't have that category ID filter, that means category ID is default 0. We don't need to apply that filter, because in that case, we'll return all the available quizzes, which are active, of course. Here we'll say query equals query dot where q dot category ID equals category ID. After this, we are good. We can have the select statement for this quiz list DTO, and we can return array version of that. Where we'll say var quizzes equals await query dot select. Here we'll say new quiz list DTO, category ID. For category name, we can say q dot category dot name, then name, then is active. We don't need it because we already have is active flag, so it should always be active only, so we can skip this. Total time in minutes and total questions, we need these things, and we need ID, of course. Dot to array async. And after this, we can return these quizzes, return quizzes. And now our get active quizzes async method is ready. Let's register this service, student quiz service, in our program.cs in API. Add transient. Let's register this. Now let's go to endpoints, and we are going to create a new method, a new class. Here we'll say student quiz endpoints, and here the same way public static class student quiz endpoints, and here we'll say public static I endpoint route builder map student quiz endpoints, this I endpoint route builder, and we'll name it app, and we'll return app at the very end. Then we'll go to program.cs again to map these endpoints. dot map student quiz endpoints. So for all these things, if you don't want to come back here again and again, you can have one uh, static class, one extension method on this, where you will see map all endpoints or something like this, and you can map all these things in that class. You don't need to come here, and you can implement some reflection also. So there are going to be a lot of other options. So there is some library also. There you just need to define an interface and it will map all those. So there are multiple options for this, but we are good because knowing the basics how these things are working, it is always a good idea. All right, here now we'll define one group. So we'll say group equals app.map group. All these APIs are going to be related to student. So we'll start these with slash API slash student. After this, we'll append all the things. Now on this, we want it to use require authorization. Then we want it to use only the student role. So we'll say p dot require role, and here we can provide roles. User role, it was user role only, right? User role dot student. So we can use name of this user role. Map group require authorization. Now we are good. Whatever endpoint we map on this group, all those will require a student role. That is what we need here. Now here we'll say group dot map get, and here we'll say slash quizzes, or we could say available quizzes. Okay, and here we'll say async, and we can have category ID as a parameter. So we'll say int query parameter, basically int category ID, and then we'll inject our student quiz service here, service, and from this service we can directly return results dot okay await service dot get active quizzes async, and we'll provide category ID as parameter, and our endpoint is ready. So the URL for this is going to be slash API slash student slash available quizzes. All right, now let's go back to our Refit. In web project, in APIs, we are going to create one more interface. So we'll say I student quiz API. Here we'll define one method with this signature task of quizlist DTU, and which should have this. So we have this interface. This is a simple interface with simple method. Now this is going to be a get request. So we'll add get from Refit. We'll provide the URL slash API slash student, right, and then available quizzes. Save it. Now this requires authentication authorization, so we need to add that authorization header here. So let's get it, headers, and then this. Save it. Now we just need to map this iStudent quiz API to Refit registration. So in program.cs of web project, Blazor WebAssembly project, where we have all these things, let's duplicate this and we can use this thing. So for these things also, you can make this maybe dynamic. You can have one array which will have types of array, array of type, where you will just define these interface names, and then just for each loop which will loop through all those, and just add this line directly. So you don't need to repeat it again and again. That is also an option. I think I have already shown you this in some of my videos. I don't remember, but that is also an option if you don't want to write much. All right, save everything, and now we should be good. Let's go to the student home Blazor page. Okay, here we don't want to fetch all the quizzes, so we can say underscore quizzes equals await. We need to inject our student quiz API. Inject I student quiz API. Student quiz API. And from this student quiz API, we can say dot get active quizzes async. We need to provide category ID. So we'll provide category ID. For that, what we'll do, we'll simply have a private int underscore selected category ID field with a default value 0, which this is a class level variable. We'll provide it here. So initially it will just pick default, nothing else. Okay. So save it. Now we should be good. It should load up the available quizzes and categories. Now we can find the things here. Okay. So here what we'll do, we'll say div class container. Inside this container, we are going to have a div class row. And here first we'll have our categories drop down. So to select that categories, we have that for one of the admin page as well, right? Which one is that? Manage quizzes only? Yes, it is. So this thing we can copy this inside that row. We'll use this from manage quizzes. Call sm3 ms auto. This thing we have this on category on selected category changed method. So we just need to define this method. We'll define it private async task, and whenever we are changing the selected category, we need to reload the quizzes. So that is what we'll do. So we'll simply say appstate.showloader. Here we'll say fetching quizzes. Then we'll have this call underscore quizzes equals await student quiz, this thing, and then we'll simply say height loader. Save it, and now we should be good. Selected category ID. It should be selected category. All right. Okay, now our category selection is ready. After this, we'll have div class row our list of the quizzes. So here what we should do in quiz list DTO, what all we have ID, we don't need to show it. We have name, category, total question, time in minutes. So mostly we'll display name, total question, time in minutes. That category name also we can show if we want to. Yeah, we should, because if there is no category selection right now, then from the drop down, then we should show the category. So we'll display name, category name, and total questions and time in minutes, and one start button. Okay, so in this row, we'll have a for each loop var q in underscore quizzes, and here we'll say div class call sm4 and in here we are going to have, let's say, div class, let's name it box. We'll have some styling on this box. So let's see if we actually need explicit class or not. So first thing, we'll use bg white. We need background white. We'll have p3, so padding 3. Then inside this, let's first have one, let's say, h5 with class fw bold. Here we'll have q dot name. Okay, then let's have one hr tag. After this hr, we'll have the category. We have these three things, right? Category, time, and total number of questions. So let's have a small table here. Table class table. Here we'll simply have a tr with the td. So the way I'm envisioning it is, we'll have name, that means category, then category name, time in the total number of questions, then number, then time in minutes, then that number again. So this is the first td will be category this thing only, or on this let's have this label class, we'll say fw bold and this category. Then we are going to have another td where we can have label or span anything, and here we'll say at the rate q dot category name. Let's copy this tr, paste it 2 more times. Second one will be number of questions, and the value would be total questions, and here we'll say 5 questions or 2 questions, something like this. Then last one will be time, or let's say total time, and here we'll say total time in total, or what was that, time in minutes, right? Time in minutes and minutes. And after this table we are again going to have one hr tag, and then we are going to have a button type button, and here we are going to have some classes. We'll say class btn, btn sm, btn I don't know, warning, what is it, class, so, and these classes, and here we'll say start quiz, something like this. Save it, and on this call sm4 we are going to have mb3, margin bottom 3. Now let's see how it looks. So we have this slash student slash home. Two things we'll do. First thing, we'll add this link. It should be on nav menu, in our layout nav menu. So there we have home. So we don't need this home. Instead, the name will be home, but the href, it should be home student slash home. So save it. And then after login, if you remember, we have our login.razor. There we have this navigation manager. If it is logged in, then it directly goes to slash, that means home page. But what we need to do, if the current user is student, it should go to the student slash home page. So it should not go to this. And same thing, it will be here, navigation manager dot navigate to slash. So instead of this, we want it to go to student home page. So here we'll say student. Oh no, we need to make it dynamic. So here we'll check if quiz auth state provider dot user dot role, if this is equals, or we have one more approach, we can say var redirect to, we can do this, we can have switch expression here on this user role. So we'll say switch, and then we are going to have two things. First would be user role dot, can we have the enums here? No, right? Role is a string. So if this is student, name of student, if this is the case, we want user to redirect to student slash home. And for anything else, we can say like this also. Or maybe we can have the second condition. Right now we'll redirect to slash, but we'll change this as well. In future, we'll change this also. So then we can say redirect to and navigate to this. Same thing we need to do in here. So instead of having these thing at these two places, let's do this. Let's have a separate method. We'll say private void redirect to home, and we'll have this thing, these two things in here. Okay, And here, because we are saying replace true here, so we can get it as a parameter here, bool replace, and we'll provide this replace here. So this is redirect to home. So here we'll say redirect to home without any parameter, but we need to have this as parameter. Why this is not complaining? Okay, so this replace, by default we'll have false value. We don't need to do anything here. But when we are here, when initializing this component, we know the user is already logged in. What we'll do, let me comment this out for now, and here we'll say redirect to home. This time we'll say replace true. Save. So we have link and we have this logic also to redirect to there. And let's check our auth state provider initializing what we have there. In initialize is saying after initializing, this is redirect to login if user is not logged in, and if user is logged in, then what happens? Nothing. It will go to the default home slash page, right? Okay, so we need to have some logic on our slash home page as well. Okay, we'll do that later when we'll work on the admin home page as well. But for now, we are good. Let's start the application. There is some errors. Semicolon missing. Oh, here. This was the error. Save it. Start it again. Okay. UI is loading. Not admin. We need the student account. So test. Login. Logging in. Patching category. You saw that? And it is looking cool actually. Right? This looks very clean. Select category. .NET MAUI. We don't have anything. So here we should show some message. Test category also we don't have anything. Select category. This is default. So we have this Blazor category, number of questions, total time, and then the start quiz. Cool. All right, let's have that message when there are no quizzes for that particular category. We should not have anything here. And maybe let's move the start quiz button to center. These two things. So we are on, where is our student home page? Student home. Here, what we should do is, inside this row, if we don't have anything, so if quizzes dot length equals 0, then what we should do, let's have a p class. We'll say h4 appearance and text danger and mt5 and text center. He will say there are no quizzes, and then we can maybe make it dynamic. If we have that category selected, we can enhance this message. So we'll say var message equals, we'll save selected category, selected category id equals 0. Then we'll have some other message. For else case, we'll have some other message. So if we don't have that category selection and still we don't have any quiz, so we'll say there is no active quiz right now, something like this. And if that's not the case, we have selected some category and we'll say there are no active quizzes right now. There are no active quizzes right now under the selected category. All right, then we can have this message rendered here. Now we'll see one problem here, but before that, after this if, let's have this inside else, this for each loop. Now what would happen initially when it will come here, when it will try to load category and quizzes, at that time we will see this message. And once it loaded and it got that uh, what we say, that list of quizzes, then this message will be removed. But that is not what we want, right? This should not be like this. Right now, if I do the hot reload, let's see if hot reload works. And if I refresh this page, oh, it will not work. Hot reload not work. So disable hot reload, close this, stop this, and run it. So I know this should happen, but to fix this, what we should do, we should have some other piece of state which will tell we are in loading state right now. So this is the default case when it is initially having the trying to load the values. So at that time this should not be here. So for this, what we'll do, we'll say private bool, let's say, is loading. Okay, and we'll have this is loading true in here, and we'll set this is loading to false, maybe in finally. All right, save it. We are good here. On category selection we don't need to do this, because here we are directly getting the value. So for this amount, it will show the loader, it will show the previous list of quizzes, and after we got this, it will render the actual correct message. So here we'll say if quiz.length is 0, or maybe we'll first say if not is loading. We are not loading right now, and quiz.length is 0, then only show this. Save it, start it. API, UI, we are on home, which is not right. It should have gone to slash student slash home. Fetching category and quizzes. If we select some category, we'll see there are no active quizzes right now under the selected category, and here we are good. But let's try to fix that initial thing. Oh, oh, it will. That is the case for that initial part. By default, when it comes, that means from initialization. At that time it happens. So we'll fix that thing once we work on the admin side of homepage. Okay, so right now we are good with this, and we wanted to move start quiz to center, or we can leave it on left also if you want to. All right, okay, now next thing what we'll do, when we are clicking on this start quiz, it should maybe show some alert kind of thing that you are about to start this or something like that, or maybe some confirmation box, something like that. And when user click on the start from there, then it should go to some second page where we will have the actual quiz progress page that should be there. So for displaying the confirmation or modal pop-up, we already have a modal, right? So modal, we'll have some variable here. So we'll say private pool, let's say show show modal, and something like show confirmation modal, something like this. Confirmation modal, or maybe we can say underscore starting quiz ID, something like this is the user wants to start this quiz with that quiz ID. We can have it as quid, and then we can check if this quiz starting quiz ID is not equals default, that is quid.empty. That means user has clicked on some start quiz, and in this case we'll show this modal. Okay, and then starting quiz ID, on click of this button we'll say on click, and in here we'll say this lambda, and we'll simply set starting quiz ID equals q.id. Okay, then on this modal we'll have title. So here we can have quiz name, right? So we need to have quiz name as well. So let's do one more thing. We have one more option. So instead of having this GUID, we can have this quiz list DTU directly. Question mark. So this should be nullable. So we'll say starting this quiz. So starting quiz. And when we are clicking on it, at that time, we'll directly set this underscore starting quiz equals Q. And then in here, when we are checking, we'll simply check if the starting quiz is not equals null. And come here and show something. So that something will be var title equals, here we'll say start and then quiz name. So underscore starting quiz dot name. We can add question mark here if we want to. So title would be this, either a title only, title, and then what else is required on this, child content, right? So here we can say p plus m0. We don't need anything here. We can say text success, or we can leave it whatever is the default, but we can have my3 and mx3 from all the sides, or maybe we can directly say p3. And here we'll say do you want to start this quiz? Then we'll have a br tag break. Here we'll say you will need to finish the quiz in, or let's say you won't be able to, what we should have, let's say you will not be able to pause the quiz, something like this, that you need to finish this, complete this quiz in one sitting only. That is what I want to convey. All right, so after this p, it will have two buttons, OK and cancel. So on cancel click, we'll simply set the starting quiz back to null. So we'll say this equals null. And on action button click, that means on OK click, here we can say on or start quiz async, something like this. We can say start quiz, or just start quiz async, not async, the start quiz. Here we can have this method private void start quiz. In here we will redirect user to the second page where this quiz progress will be there. So there we'll have that question, next button, options. User can choose the correct option and they can next go to next question, something like that. So here we will use this navigation manager, and we are not injecting it, so let's inject it. Inject navigation manager. Then in here in start quiz we'll say navigation manager dot navigate to, and here we will redirect to students slash start quiz, or let's say just quiz. Save it. And now with this one we need quiz id as well, a quiz we are starting, because on the basis of that only we'll have all the information. So we have two different options. One option is we can pass this quiz id as a parameter from here in query string parameter. We can get those values there, or maybe we can have some singleton service registration, and we can set that quiz info here and we can access that directly on this page. So looks like this approach is making more sense, because we on that page also will display the quiz name, number of questions and all that stuff. So instead of fetching it again from the API, we already have that information, so we can reuse that. Okay, so for this what I'll do in this web project only, I'm going to create a new class. I'll say quiz state.cs. Okay, inside this we are going to have a property of type that quiz list dto, and here we'll say quiz. This should be nullable because the default value will be null, and I want it to make private set, and I want to have a method here public void set quiz list dto quiz, and here we'll set this quiz to this quiz. So this quiz state, we'll simply register this as singleton in our API, sorry, not API, in this in web project. So here we'll say add singleton and we'll just register this quiz state, save it, and now we can inject this on the student home page. So let's inject, we'll call it quiz state only, inject. Then before navigating to the quiz start page, we'll say quiz state dot set quiz, and we'll set starting quiz here. Okay, then we'll navigate to this student quiz page. So now we need to create this page. That we'll do next, but right now just let's see if this thing is working. So start. The button click works, it shows that modal. When we cancel, it should not do anything. When we press OK, it should try to redirect to this new page. That's these all things we'll check. So okay, home, student home, fetching categories, start quiz. We can see this start this Blazor. Do you want to start this quiz? You will not be able to pause the quiz, close, okay, and cancel. If we do this, nothing is happening. If we do this, nothing is happening. If we say okay, it is redirecting to this page, but we didn't create that page yet, so it is showing this thing, and we are good with this. All right, the next thing we'll work on the actual quiz page, where we are going to have a lot of interactivity.